Sir,
to understand
can you
this
lift me up
changes
to see the sky?
I understand.
The ferry's horn blasted
proceed.
across the misty harbor as Sarah Chen sat motionless in her wheelchair, staring at the metal railing that blocked her view. Around her, passengers rushed to the upper deck, their excited voices fading into the distance. She had traveled 300 miles to see the legendary sunset from this famous ferry route, but the crowded lower deck offered nothing but shoulders and backs. Her eyes welled with tears, not from pain, but from the crushing weight of invisibility. That's when she noticed him. A man in an expensive charcoal suit stood nearby, checking his phone with the practiced indifference of someone important. Sarah's heart pounded as she gathered every ounce of courage she had left. Her voice barely rose above a whisper at first, then stronger. "Sir, can you lift me up to see the sky?" The question hung in the salty air like a prayer. James Mitchell, CEO of one of the country's largest tech corporations, froze mid-scroll. In 42 years of life, no one had ever asked him for something so simple yet so profound. He looked down at the young woman, maybe 25, with determination burning behind her tear-streaked face, and something inside him cracked open. If you're already moved by Sarah and James's encounter, imagine where this story goes next. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs inspiration today, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more stories that touch the heart. Your support means everything to us. James pocketed his phone without a word. He walked towards Sarah, and she braced herself for rejection or, worse, pity. Instead, he knelt beside her wheelchair, his expensive suit pressing against the damp ferry floor. "I'm James," he said simply. "And yes, I can." Without waiting for permission from a world that had taught him to always wait for permission, he gently lifted Sarah from her wheelchair. She was lighter than he expected, but the weight of her trust was immeasurable. He carried her to the railing, and as her eyes lifted to meet the horizon, she gasped. The sky was on fire, brilliant oranges melting into deep purples, clouds painted with gold like strokes from a divine brush. "It's beautiful," she whispered, and James realized she wasn't just seeing the sunset. She was seeing possibility. But the moment was shattered by a harsh voice. "Excuse me, sir, but this is highly irregular." A ferry official approached, clipboard in hand, concern etched across his face. "For insurance purposes, passengers cannot be removed from mobility devices without proper protocols. I'm going to have to ask you to return the young lady to her wheelchair immediately." The other passengers turned to stare. Some pulled out phones to record. James felt Sarah tense in his arms, her moment of freedom evaporating. The old James would have complied, apologized, returned to his phone and his carefully constructed world where rules protected him from human messiness. But something had changed. "How much does this ferry cost?" James asked, his voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear. The official blinked, confused. "Sir, that's not relevant," James interrupted. "I asked you a question. How much does this entire ferry operation cost?" The official stammered, "I don't know exactly, maybe 20 million for the vessel, plus operational costs." James smiled, though his eyes remained serious. "I'll buy it. Right now. 25 million cash, transferred within the hour. And my first policy change will be that every single person on this boat gets to see the sky, regardless of their circumstances." The deck fell silent. Sarah stared at James in disbelief. The official's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then something unexpected happened. The crowd began to clap. First one person, then another, until the entire deck erupted in applause. An elderly man shouted, "Let her see the sunset!" A mother with a young child called out, "Some things are more important than rules." The official, overwhelmed and perhaps moved himself, stepped back and nodded. 10 more minutes, he said quietly. "Then we follow proper procedures." Those 10 minutes changed 2 lives forever. James held Sarah steady as she watched the sun sink below the horizon, and she told him her story. 3 years ago, a drunk driver had stolen her ability to walk but not her will to live. She had saved for 2 years to take this trip, to prove to herself that she was still capable of experiencing beauty, of feeling alive. "Everyone tells me what I can't do," she said, tears streaming freely now. "You're the first person in 3 years who asked me what I wanted and then just did it." James felt something break and rebuild inside his chest. He had built an empire, influenced markets, commanded respect from thousands of employees. But he had never felt as powerful as he did in this moment, holding another human being up to see the sky. When they finally returned Sarah to her wheelchair, James didn't walk away. He sat down beside her, his expensive suit damp and wrinkled, and they talked until the ferry docked. He learned about her dreams of becoming a photographer, about the camera she couldn't afford, about the accessibility barriers that kept her from pursuing her passion. Sarah learned about James's loneliness at the top, his divorce, his estrangement from his 2 children who saw him as a wallet rather than a father. 2 broken people, finding wholeness in unexpected connection. 3 months later, James didn't buy the ferry company, he did something better. He launched an accessibility initiative across all his business holdings and donated $5 million to organizations serving people with disabilities. But more importantly, he hired Sarah as his company's chief accessibility consultant and invested in her photography business. Her first gallery show, titled Lifted, Perspectives from Below, featured the sunset from that ferry deck and sold out in 2 hours. The story could end there, neat and inspiring. But real transformation is messier and more beautiful than that. James learned to slow down, to see people instead of obstacles or opportunities. He reconnected with his children, humbled and honest about his failures. Sarah learned that asking for help wasn't weakness but wisdom, that vulnerability could be a superpower. And on the anniversary of their meeting, they returned to that ferry together, not as CEO and consultant, but as friends who had lifted each other up in the ways that mattered most. Sometimes the sky isn't what we need to see. Sometimes we need to see each other, really see each other, past the wheelchairs and suits, past the titles and limitations, to the aching, hoping, beautifully human souls underneath. That's the real sunset worth chasing, the one that never stops painting new possibilities across the horizon of our hearts. Did this story touch you? Then please, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with 5 people who need to hear this message, leave a comment telling us about a time someone lifted you up when you needed it most, and subscribe to Trillionaire in Love. We are building a community of people who believe that love, kindness, and human connection can change the world, one unexpected moment at a time. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that might just change your perspective. Remember, we all need someone to lift us up sometimes, and we all have the power to lift others. The question is, will you?